This is my entire board game collection. Ooh. And today, I'm going to rank them from my favorite to least favorite, with last place getting the boot. And I want to emphasize that this list is based on my personal preferences, and I know that this ranking will be different for each person. But first of all, we need to talk about these games and these games. These are the games that I have designed, so I won't be including them in this ranking because they are my children and they're perfect in every way. And these are my games of shame. I either haven't played them yet, or I started to play them but didn't play a full game, or I played them once many years ago. So I also won't be including these in my ranking. Now back to the shelf of shame for you. Alright, let's start with number 1. Istanbul, the dice game. If you've been watching my channel for a while, this will not be a surprise. In fact, I made an entire video about why I think this game is as close to perfectly designed as possible. I'm currently saying it is my favorite game. It is so much fun. So I'm not going to go into great detail for every game because we have a lot of games to go through. But this is a super fun game where you're rolling dice and you're deciding what you're going to do with that dice roll, and you're trying to get as many rubies as possible. The first player to a certain number of rubies wins. And there's so many different ways that you can get rubies, and it's a ton of fun. So this is absolutely staying in my collection. This is a fantastic game. Number 1. Number 2 is Pandemic. I really enjoy cooperative games, and this is one of the best cooperative games there is. It's by Matt Leacock, one of the best designers of cooperative games. It is super fun, and I played this the other day with my parents, and I was just reminded of how great this game is. It is so much fun. You feel like you have everything under control, and it's like, oh no, we forgot about this. We have to make sure we don't forget about this. Or there's so many different ways that you can die. There's so many ways that terrible things can happen, and there's a lot to manage, but it's just so much fun to try to figure out all those levers and make sure everything is under control. Always have a great time playing this game. Number 3, King of Tokyo. This is probably also not a surprise if you've watched my channel for a little while. I love this game. It's by Richard Garfield, the same designer as Magic the Gathering. You're playing different monsters trying to take control of Tokyo. You can either win by defeating all other monsters or gaining so much strength that you win. There's a lot of different elements in this game, including push your luck. So you can stay in Tokyo for as long as you want, but you can't heal in Tokyo. So the longer you stay in there, the lower your health might get, and you might let it get so low that you can't recover, and then you get eliminated. There's, again, a ton of different ways that you can win, different paths you can take. You can upgrade your monster. There's so many fun things in this game. It's one of my favorite games to introduce people who are just getting into gaming or getting into designing, because it's just so much fun. Number 4 is 7 Wonders Duel. So this is the 2-player version of 7 Wonders, if you've heard of that game. So this is just for 2 players, and it's about build up ancient wonders, build up your civilization. Again, you'll notice a trend that I like games where there's multiple different ways that you can win. There are 3 different ways that you can win this game. You can win through scientific supremacy. So if you have a certain number of science icons, you can win that way. You can win through military supremacy. So if you overtake the other player, there's a bit of a tug of war military track. So if you reach the end of the military track against your opponent and you overtake them with your military, you can win that way. Or you can also win from victory points. And you get points from the wonders that you've built, from the buildings that you've built, and your civilization that you've built up. Super fun, lots of different choices, great interaction between the players. Fantastic game. Number 5 is my favorite party game, Just One. This is an incredibly simple game, but it is so much fun. So you have one person as the guesser, everyone else is trying to give clues to the guesser, but if anyone writes down the same clue, they can't show that. So you're trying to come up with unique clues to give the guesser, but you don't know what clues anyone else is going to write down. It is always a good time. I love this game so much. It really shows that great games can really be incredibly simple. They don't need to have a ton of stuff going on. This game is so clever and so straightforward and so streamlined. It's a beautiful thing. Then at number 6, I have my other favorite party game, Catchphrase. This game is like hot potato with guessing. You sit in a circle with each team alternating a person around the circle. And when you have this disc and a bunch of clues come up here, you try to get your teammates to guess the clue on the screen before the buzzer goes off. If it goes off in your hands, the other team gets a point. So you're trying to have your teammates guess the clue, and then you pass it to the other player on the other team sitting next to you, and the beeper is going off the whole time. It hits all of the things in a party game that I look for. It's fast-paced, there's laughter, it's easy to learn, there's social interaction, and there's mental stimulation. And that's my framework that I use when I design party games. The one thing about this is that they could have had thousands, millions of words on this screen. You just have a computer chip in there, and then it pulls out these clues. But for some reason, you get the same words over and over and over. It's quite frustrating. But still, it's a fantastic game. It's always a hit. It always brings the energy up at a party, which in my mind is what you want in a party game. Fantastic party game Catchphrase. At number 7, we have Creature Comforts by Roberta Taylor, published by Kids Table Board Games, or KTBG. They make fantastic, high-quality games. I have quite a few games by KTBG, and this is a fantastic dice worker placement game with one of the most fun and unique themes that I have ever seen. So you're playing different animals, and you're trying to make your den the most cozy place before winter comes. So you're trying to collect cozy blankets and soup and a fireplace and a book, and I just love this theme so much because it's different and unique, and I haven't seen anything like that before. So I love seeing games that have great mechanics, but also a great theme that work really well together and that are different. And again, I just in general love worker placement games. There's so many different choices that you can make, and there's more choices as the game goes on. Highly, highly recommend this game. Number 8 is Carcasonne. This is a classic game. This is one of the games that really ignited the modern board game renaissance. It's again a very simple idea. You just draw a tile, place a tile, and then potentially you might place a meeple. But there's so many different things that you can do with those fairly simple options. And you're basically building up a countryside, but you're trying to claim different elements of this countryside that is being built out by both you and the other players. So it's a shared tile land that you're building up together, but you're competing against each other. It's a ton of fun, super easy to learn, with a nice balance of uncertainty and strategy. And it's just so satisfying when you make a nice big city and you collect all those points, or you make a nice long road that no one hijacks from you. And I know there are a ton of expansions, which I haven't really even explored. I've only played the base game really with a couple of the expansions that come with this. And so I know there's a whole world of Carcasonne that you can play with all the expansions. So I'm looking forward to trying those out, but the base game on its own is fantastic. And number 9 is Forbidden Desert. This is designed also by Matt Leacock, who designed Pandemic. This is such a fun game. Again, you have many different things going on, many different ways you can all lose. Another cooperative game. You're playing together, you win together or you lose together. But in this one, you're in the desert and sand keeps blowing, covering up all the things you're trying to dig out. And so basically you're all trying to find pieces to a ship that flies. So you're trying to find all the pieces to this ship so you can fly out of the desert and escape before you die of thirst or heat or being buried by sand. But this is a tile game, and depending on the direction of the wind, that will determine where sand will pile up. Each player has their own unique ability, and you really feel like you're a team out in the middle of the desert trying to survive. Fantastic game, so much fun. Number 10 is Ticket to Ride Europe. So this is one of the first modern board games that I played when I was first getting introduced to sort of the modern board games. I was used to just playing, party games and roll and move games. And a friend of a friend brought this game out at a party, and I remember feeling very overwhelmed. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't like it. I was confused. And so if you are just starting out in this hobby, I completely understand how this can be all very overwhelming. But now that I've played a lot more games, this is not so intimidating. You start to see certain mechanics over and over, and then it's not all brand new to you. So this is a route building game where you are trying to lay down your trains on a track to make a connected path from one destination to another, but other players could beat you to those paths, and then you have to find a longer way to get to where you want to get to. So you have to decide, are you going to build up your cards? Are you going to lay down a track now? Or are you going to try to build a longer track? But then if you wait too long, someone else might take one of the other tracks you're trying to build on. It's a ton of fun. And again, it's just so satisfying when you complete one of your routes, when you finally made that connection from the starting point to the end. But the jostling between the players of trying to lay down your tracks but you potentially might block other players. It builds up a lot of tension. I will always say yes when someone suggests playing Ticket to Ride. Number 11 is Pandemic Legacy. So this is similar to the Pandemic base game, but this is the legacy game. So that means that things are going to be discovered as you play the game. It's played over 1 year, so 12 games, but if you lose a game, then you might have to play another game. So it might be more than 12 games, but it's essentially supposed to be played over 12 months. And different things happen as the game goes on. You'll discover new things, like new stickers that you can add to the board, which will build out the map. You might open different envelopes that have more information about what's going on. Your characters will change. Things will happen to your characters that will change them. It is such a cool game, such a cool concept. I know I've talked about this before, but it really just is a feat of designing. It's just amazing the amount of work that went into build this game, from playtesting, because it is kind of like a one-time experience. Like, it's tough to have the same playtesters playtest this multiple times if they kind of know what's going to happen. So I just respect how much it took to design this game, and it really is a well-designed game. There are a few things that are a little bit confusing. You're not exactly sure what the rules are, or remembering what changed last time into this time. And to be honest, the last time I played this was, I think, 4 years ago, and I think I ended at about the 6-month mark. So I have not completed it, and it kind of feels like once you've stopped playing it for that long, you forget what happened. So that's why I haven't really brought it back out. But even just those 6 months that I played, it was unlike any other gaming experience I've had. It's just such a cool game. Number 12 is Splendor. This is an engine building game, meaning you will start off with not being able to do too much, but after you build up and you gain certain cards, they will give you permanent gems that you can use to buy more stuff, but you don't have to actually trade in those cards. You just own that gem for the rest of the game, and you can use it to buy more things without having to spend anything. It's very light on theme, but it is one of the most interesting and fun games just for the mechanics, and it's just fun building up your jewels and then buying more jewels with them. And you really need to be aware about what the other players are doing, which cards they're going for, because there's an open drafting element to this game. So the other players might be going for the same card you're building up for, so you want to try to get it before they do. And they do have a mechanic where you can spend a turn to reserve a card. If you feel like other players are going for it and you really want it, you can then take it and reserve it, and then now you can just build up to buy that just you. I really enjoy this game. I never win at this game. Maybe that's part of why I like it, because of the challenge that I want to figure out better strategies to win, because I never win this game. But I always enjoy it. Number 13 and 14 are Sushi Go and Sushi Go Party. These were designed by one of my favorite designers, Phil Walker Harding. They are a closed drafting game, so everyone has their hand of cards. They choose one, and then they pass the rest to the player on their left or their right, and then they get a new hand of cards, pick one, pass, pick one, pass. And you're trying to get as many points as possible with different cute little sushi themed cards. Sushi Go Party plays up to a higher player count, and then they added a mat in the middle to keep track of points, and they added a few other cards to the game. So I ranked this one just a bit higher because I don't know if it needed all of that. The base game is awesome. Another super simple but always a great time game. Number 15 and 16 are Kingdomino and QueenDomino. This is a tile-based game where the order in which people can choose tiles depends on what order they were in the previous round when they chose tiles. So if you picked one of the better tiles in the previous round, you would then choose further down the line in the next round. So you're trying to lay down these tiles to build out your own little kingdom or queendom in a way that will generate the most points. And you get points by having connected areas and different things like that. QueenDomino, again, similar to Sushi Go, they added a few more things. They added a board. They added more ways that you can get points and things like that. But just like with Sushi Go, I like the base game just a bit more. I don't know if it really needed that extra stuff, but it's still awesome, still lots of fun. But I guess I appreciate the streamlined games a bit more. But just the way that turn order is determined in this game is very cool. And then it's also always very satisfying when you can make a nice grid that is perfectly connected and you're able to get the tiles that you really want. The more that I'm talking about these games, the more I want to play these games right now. This won a Spiel des Jahres, a Game of the Year award in 2017. Number 17 is Robinson Crusoe, which I don't have with me here. It's over at my sister's place, but it is probably the heaviest game, the most complex game that I own. It has taken a lot of time to learn how to play the game. There's a pretty big, steep learning curve for this game. There's a lot going on, but basically you and your friends, another cooperative game, you're all stranded on an island and you're trying to survive and get off the island before you all die. And it is a very punishing game. There are a lot of different ways that terrible things can happen to you. But I think that's part of why I like it. It's a really big challenge to win this game. And there's just so much going on, but it all makes sense. And once you get past the hurdle of learning how to play it and working through the large rule book and watching how to play videos, and you start actually getting into the game, you can see the magic of this game. It's so much fun. And then they have a bunch of different scenarios as well, rather than just being stranded on an island and trying to build a fire big enough that a ship can see it. You can have a bunch of different scenarios that are completely different from that one. I've only played the base scenario, so I'm looking forward to trying out the different scenarios as well. But one of the coolest things about the game mechanically is that if you and one other player go do something together, it's a guaranteed success. That will happen for sure. Like if you both decide to go hunt or you both decide to build something, that will be 100% success. If just one of you go and do one of those things, you then have to roll dice, and more likely than not, something bad will happen. So that's a decision that you have to make as a group. How much risk are you going to take? Are you going to try to do more stuff by all spreading out and doing things individually? But then you have a higher chance of bad things happening. But if two people go and do each thing, you won't be able to get everything done that you need to get done in the time that you have. I love the theme. Again, another cooperative game that I love. And I love the challenge of it. It's not higher up in my list just because there is a lot going on. The rules can be a bit finicky and overly complicated sometimes, but I'm really looking forward to playing this game again. Number 18 is Wreck Raiders. This is another KTBG game, so the quality is fantastic, and it's very cool because inside the box, this is where you roll dice. So you roll dice into the top of the box, and depending on which area it lands on, that will determine what tokens you get. So I love when games use the components and the game box in different and interesting ways. So this one, you're deep sea divers and you're diving for treasure and you're building up aquariums as well. There's a ton of different stuff going on in this game. And so there's a bunch of different ways that you can get points. The art's beautiful, the quality of the components is high, and I always really enjoy this game when I play it. Number 19 is Wordsy. This is by the designer Gil Hova. I have a couple of his games, and it is just a very clever, super fun word game. I love word games. And in this game, you have different letter cards that everyone can use, but then they can add whatever other letters that they want to. But they'll only get points for the letters on the table that they use. And the points for the letters will change. These letters will shift down, and so the higher point value will be here, but then they'll shift down and that will change. And then there's another cool thing about this game is that if you finish first, you grab the timer and turn it, and now that is how much time everyone else has left, rather than just turning over a timer at the start, and once the timer is up, that's when the round is over. And then also you would get bonus points if you scored more points than the person who grabbed the timer. So there's a bunch of clever little things in this game. It is one of my favorite word games, and I highly recommend this or any Gil Hova game really. And coming at number 20 is Haunt the House, another KTBG game. I wish you could feel these games. Like even like the letters here, they're a different texture than the rest of the box. Like little details like that. And I'm pretty sure, I think it's glow in the dark. I can't remember, but it feels so cool. The box is just so nice. So again, fantastic components. But in this game, you're playing different ghosts that are haunting a house and trying to scare out these ghost hunters that have come into the mansion. Halloween is coming up. I love to play this game around Halloween. So much fun. Fantastic theme, but a great game mechanically as well. And number 21 is Patchwork. This is another exclusively two-player game, and the turn order is also very interesting in this game. So whoever is furthest back on the track can take as many turns as they can until they're ahead of the other player. Now the other player goes until they're ahead of the other player. So it's a very cool way to determine turn order. So essentially you're trying to build up a quilt by grabbing different tiles and placing them on your board. But if you take a really good tile, that might move you up quite far along the track, and then the other player could potentially take quite a few turns before they catch up to you. Then you would get points depending on how many buttons you have on your quilt at the end, how many empty spaces you have on your grid. You're trying to fill those all in and have a nice complete quilt by the end of it. It's always nice to have games that are exclusively made for 2 players, so you know they'll work very well for 2 players rather than a game that plays 4 to 5 but can also be played at 2, but it doesn't really work that well. Number 22 is Safranito. This is a game that I feel like doesn't get a lot of attention, but is a lot of fun. So this has a dexterity element to it. So you're throwing discs onto a board, and the board has different spices laid out on it. You might be going for a certain kind of spice because the goal of the game is to collect spices for specific spice blends. So you're throwing your discs onto the board, trying to land them on the spice that you want. But the thing is, there's a hidden bidding element to this. And so on the backside of the disc, you will have different amounts of money, and that's how much you're willing to pay for that spice. But if multiple people land on the same spice, whoever bid the most would then have the opportunity to buy it. But you don't know what everyone else is bidding because it's all hidden on the backside of the disc. So there's the dexterity element of trying to throw the disc onto the blend that you want, but then also trying to decide how much you're willing to pay for that spice. It's a beautiful game. I like the games that have, a bit of the dexterity element to it that's not necessarily racing to grab things. Very fun game. I highly recommend playing it if you